Hello, Brew.
Hey,
How are you doing on this fine August evening?
I'm doing pretty. I'm doing all right. I'm a little confused. Well, let me start from the beginning. I was walking down the street one day, right?
Uh huh.
And I walked by my theater, and I saw that it had three words on it. It had old, and it had pig,
Mm-hmm.
and it also had Val on there.
Old Pig Vow.
Old Pig Val.
Like, Val, as in Kilmer.
Yeah, like Val Kilmer. I didn't actually watch Val, but I was just so struck by the serendipity of three-letter film names that I immediately watched two of them. So have you heard about Old?
I have heard about Old. It's, M. Night Shyamalan's triumphant return to the silver screen,
Yeah.
and it's about a beach that makes you, old, and it's got the kid from Hereditary and Naked Brothers band in it.
Yeah, it's got the kid from Hereditary Naked Brothers band in it. Yeah, Old is a movie about old. Now have
About getting old.
now have you heard of Pig?
I have also heard of Pig. I saw it fairly recently on many people's recommendations, and I did not think it deserved those recommendations.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of what I'm here to talk about. It also did have Alex Wolff of Naked Brothers Band and Hereditary.
Oh, it did. I will say, getting to see him play a aged up 8 year old and a sleazy fail son in the Portland restaurant scene back to back was an interesting. I don't want to call it umami, whatever the inversion of umami would be.
It was some whiplash. It was,
Yeah.
I mean, it was basically the same character. They were both 8 years old, one way or another. So the thing that I really came in to talk to you about, Doctor Bearhat, uh, is
Please use the non-binary. Dick's bear
okay. Dick's Bearhat. I don't know how I feel about. Okay. Um.
hat.
Well, here's the thing. So M. Night Shyamalan, very famously known for making bad movies, right? Although M. Night Shyamalan used to be like a really good director.
Yeah, and he has his passionate defenders who argue that he's actually good,
Yeah.
and that The Happening or Lady in the Water or The Village or Signs
Yeah.
or Avatar
Yeah.
or Last Earth are all actually good movies. Well, maybe not those last two ones, but
Was he always like this? Was he not? I actually insist that he was always like this, and that you guys really got to go back and rewatch Signs, because that movie is held together by thread, if you remember.
they should have called it Signposts because boy does it signpost its themes.
Oh my fucking god. Yeah, he's also very obvious. His stuff has been like mostly religious, and I think that's kind of where people kind of peg him as a more serious director or whatever because of the stuff with like his wife and Signs and like all this stuff in like Sixth Sense and shit like that. Uh
Mhm.
but he kind of always been a goofball. His movies have always been a little goofy. Oh,
Yeah, goofy is definitely the way to describe them.
I think this is going to be something I bring up every time one of his new movies comes out. Do you remember that like Sci-Fi Channel documentary they made about him?
Not only do I remember it, I'm looking at a copy of it right now because I bought it on DVD when I heard that he had a new movie out.
You fucking psychopath.
I wanted to watch it.
You ill person.
I still haven't watched it, but I wanted to.
Have you seen it before?
Oh yeah. I saw it when it aired. I was super into that stuff as a kid.
Me too. I fucking love that shit. That documentary was full of lies about his life.
Oh yeah, it was a massive hoax to promote The Village,
Mhm.
despite The Village not being about ghosts in any way.
super, super funny. But I mean, like, that was the big thing on TV back then, was like ghost hunting shows and like ghost history and shit like that. I think people have a little bit of a humorless way of looking at him, and of kind of how he does things, and his tone for approaching things. Meanwhile, Pig, and I'm sorry to kind of hop between films here, I just really just need to thoroughly kind of compare these two. Um, Pig is a directorial debut of some fucking Yale grad. By the way, I walked out of Pig. Uh, okay, the brunt of why I need some therapy today is I liked Old way more than Pig. I thought Old was a way better movie than Pig. Everybody loves Pig. Everyone thinks Pig is really, really good. I thought Old was fun, and Pig was not fun. Fucking Nicolas Cage shows up at your work, and it's like, oh, he knew you 20 years ago, but I didn't. But he did, but you did, and now he just says things to you, and now you're crying. Oh, you're crying because you've known Nicolas Cage for so long, off screen. I hate Pig.
I don't quite get where people. It feels like a movie that's made for people who say that they're really into food, but don't really demonstrate that they're really into food. Like, maybe they spend a lot of money on takeout.
Yeah, because it was all of this, like, really half-baked, like, do you remember all of the stupid shit? Well, okay, anything that has jokes.
You really missed how bad the ending is. How bad the ending sequences in that movie are.
Oh, I didn't miss it, eh? Oh.
Hey, oh.
I'm not missing it very much. Anything that has a scene that, like, is making fun of, like, rich people food or whatever, like, oh, trendy, like, I get it, but it's like, I've heard that joke before. I've heard the joke before of the old grizzled guy turning off the classical music on the radio because it's for fags. I've heard that joke. It felt really, really dishonest, and it only makes sense that, like, it's by some Yale kid. Like, the movie is by someone that went to Yale.
Yeah. I think probably the most insane scene to me is the part where he's dressing down the guy who made the gastropub or whatever instead of a pub.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you should have made it. And the guy's like, there's no pub scene in Portland, which is true.
Yeah.
Portland is absolutely true. I don't know what a sports bar pub fucking thing would do miserably in Portland.
Yeah, like,
and he has this whole thing of like, well, it's all about, you build it and they will come. And it's like, cool. Isaac Brock of Modest Mouse tried that. It didn't work. His bar shut down because people did not, in fact, go. Because if you make something that people don't like in an area where they historically don't like that thing, they won't go to it. And you won't be able to run it. Because it turns out that it costs money to run things. Because we don't all live in the fucking woods with our truffle pig, listening to mixtapes that our dead wife made. Well, we fuck our pig, which he insists he did not do. It also, I felt, had that, like, John Wick style thing where he can just go where he needs to go and knows where he has to go next and has the right connections to do,
it's him.
Like,
Dude,
kind of whatever.
Him.
To kind of God mode his way through the scene. A scene that he hasn't been in over 2 decades. People... Like, yeah, there are people who will be there, but, like, everyone knows him. There's the restaurant scene in Portland. There's no way it's that many people who've been there for 3 decades.
Portland's a pretty big city, guys. Like, it's not...
There's people, like, there's, like, 23-year-olds who are in the industry who don't know who the fuck this guy is. And they just don't exist. And, like, I don't want to CinemaSins this film, of course. I'm not trying to do a CinemaSins thing here. What I'm trying to say is that if you're going to give me a John Wick movie, you can't give me a John Wick movie where nothing happens and it does all of these, like, God mode things so that a character can just move from set piece to set piece to deliver me some fucking, like, podcast inspirational like NPR episode bullshit about
Yeah.
how magical food making is. Motherfucker, I know how magical making food is because I cook for myself.
What if like instead of
I-
instead of like shooting you and kicking your ass, John Wick just did like a The Moth episode at you, and it was like really epic.
if he just did he pulled out his phone and started showing you YouTube informational videos that are animated in that fucking Google document style of explaining about the unique approach that some culture has to food and how, when you think about it, perhaps Americans can stand to learn something from these simple people and the way in which they eat food.
The ending of John Wick 2 where he's like looking around and everybody hasn't seen Okja is like the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I will say, and I won't hold this against Pig, and I get a lot of people I know and whose opinions I trust really liked this film.
I hope
And so
those
I
people
ask you-
die. If you're listening,
and so I-
die. No,
And so I ask you to defend yourselves. No, but so like I'm not gonna shit on anyone who likes this film or gets something out of it. But I will shit on this film because I thought it was a not very clever sleight of hand. Is I guess how I would describe it.
Yeah.
And last word I guess from me on this movie, I can't hold it against it because it couldn't have imagined it. Something really weird about this film coming out like immediately after a global pandemic that killed like mostly people in the restaurant industry and like kind of destroyed their industry.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess like, you know, maybe there's like that nostalgic factor that people have about the restaurant industry.
Mm-hmm.
But man, very weird vibe to have Restaurant Fight Club.
Yeah, well, it's
And for me to think about all the people I know who work in the food industry and how their lives were basically destroyed by it.
pretty much, yeah, it's kind of horrifying. And I mean, like, that's another aspect of the movie that's like really, another aspect of its kind of dishonesty is that it's just really using the restaurant industry and not really like actually intending to talk, or like, I don't know, it seems like it's intending to talk about the restaurant industry, but not really anything that's actually substantive other than just like, oh, sometimes there's like these really trendy restaurants and they're expensive and they don't give you a lot of food, which is like, thank you, we've known this since time immemorial. But like, they're like, I know people who work in food who could tell you like actual in-depth like horrible things about how the restaurant industry kind of sucks ass. And yeah, it was a fucking bloodbath these past few years. It's unfucking believable.
But you said you enjoyed Old, correct?
I fucking loved Midsize Sedan.
Oh, I
Old.
forgot that was the rapper's name. Yeah.
One of the most like fuck it sort of like rapper names I've ever seen in anything. I wonder if that's actually from the original because it's based on a graphic novel. It's based off of Sandcastle. But yeah, I don't know. What did you think of Old?
I thought that it was an interesting push through M. Night's previous style, and that it kind of came all the way around of like all the campiness and goofiness of his previous films to arrive at like fully leaning into it in a way that delivers an enjoyable experience that still matches that like weirdness of his other movies without feeling like a complete misfire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I don't think that there's like not problems with it. You know, there's a lot of things you could critique about it. It has that sort of classic M. Night ear for dialogue where he's very good at making people that sound at times both very naturalistic and also like but wrong. Like
Yeah.
the actual lines are fine, but the way he has them deliver them and like the way he like cuts up their lines just like makes the delivery sound wrong.
Yeah. Well, I feel like he has a lot of respect, or like he has this very sort of middle America sort of way of uh, because like Signs is like very middle America. He basically just has these like very established actors doing these like very simplistic like normal person lines, like things that normal people say or whatever.
Yeah,
Uh, and like, I think, I don't know, that's a lot of where his like success kind of came from initially, and that's even like the stuff that I liked about Lady in the Water. Now, I'm not gonna say I loved Old. Um, I still would overall say that it's like a air quotes like bad movie. Same goes for like kind of a lot of his stuff. But at the same time, I find a lot of it hard to get mad about. Just because, and especially kind of taken into consideration with the fact that like even films like Lady in the Water kind of have this personality to them that is at least trying to be there. And I would say the same of Old, where like, say what you will about the film, I kind of feel like these characters were pretty memorable. Like they had these sort of emotional silhouettes to them, in a way that his movies always try to do.
yeah, very very broad characters to the extent that they're almost archetypal, but like still get to feel like actual characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh, Now, what did you think of the visual design of the film? Because the big thing that I really liked about it is that he had some just great shot composition in this movie, and just ways he would move the camera around, like the way he would pan from one action going on to another, the way some things would move off screen and you'd continue to hear them while it kind of like slowly, almost like lazily, like drifts over to a character like much farther away who's like watching these events unfold.
Yeah, I thought it was. I don't want to say like it stood out to me, but it's like he is. I don't know. I feel like we're getting into this like age of movie making where it's like he's a director. He does director things, and that's like
Yeah,
I'm getting more and more like, oh yay, which is like kind of concerning in a way. What have the past few years of his career been like? There's been The Happening, um, which was like his first like really just kind of not good at all movie. Although I mean like I don't know, I The Happening is still a fun watch because of Marky Mark
I, I,
largely.
I I was gonna say a thing that's very interesting to me is how many I have read so many people discussing how The Happening is a good movie actually and etc. And I can appreciate and understand all of their points of views. I cannot get behind the argument that it is an actually good movie and not a like good bad movie. I think it is objectively a complete misfire, but it is the way in which it blows completely past whatever he was going for that makes it a fun movie.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like a Birdemic situation for sure. That being said, um Old is very funny. I mean, okay, like the twist, like okay, go ahead. Like first off, so we all knew there was going to be a twist. I actually kind of an obvious twist,
Yeah,
which is I think something that I've heard as a critique before. I don't know if you saw the twist coming in advance or not.
I had assumed. Are you talking about the twist with regards to the fact that the island is doing it intentionally,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
like the yeah? No, I'd assumed that. I initially thought I was going to dislike the fact that it kind of explains things at the end, but the more I thought about it, the more I actually really like the way it does it because it frames it in such this like epilogue-y way
Yeah.
that I've kind of come around to it. Um, I think the stuff before that, where they kind of over explain things, is still a major problem that M. Night has in his films
Mm-hmm.
of characters over explaining stuff. Um, like the characters can figure out the rules of the situation they're in without them having to explain how they came to those conclusions and how they discovered these rules and why those rules are in place because it's a magic beach that makes people old. I don't really need you to explain what the rules are on it. You kind of could just give me any rules and be like, that's the rules.
I have some sort of attachment as like a movie that would have existed in like the early aughts that I that I would have seen with my like high school friends or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, no, it definitely has that vibe.
Yeah, but yeah, but at the same like, at the same time there's like a better movie and like a better movie idea that exists within this, and I think I would have rather Like I would have rather been enriched, I guess, in a general sense. Even if I did think this was cute.
I believe that is about time for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't know, you still take my insurance, right?
No, I don't take any insurance.
Oh. So the out of
It
pocket is
is I don't know, however much you want to throw in. I guess it's kind of like sliding scale.
Oh, I see.
Uh,
But
yeah,
it slides off a cliff.
yeah, it slides. It slides into a scale because I charge you your money by the weight instead of by the dollar amount.